Wacky Wednesday.
From the ghost of a woman appearing randomly in a group photo, to an apparition captured by closed-circuit security cameras, we count 20 of the most mysterious ghost photos of all time. Number 20. The Phantom Pilot Ghost. Mrs. Sayer and some friends were visiting the Fleet Air Arms Station in Somerset, England in 1987 when this photo was taken. They thought it would be cute to take a photo of her sitting in the seat of a retired helicopter. No one, Mrs. Sayer insists, was sitting next to her in the pilot seat at the time, although a figure in a white shirt can clearly be seen sitting right next to her. She told investigators with the Society for Physical Research that she remembered feeling rather cold sitting in that seat, even though it was a hot day. And other photos that were taken at the same time during that day did not come out fully developed. Number 19. Robert A. Ferguson. This photo was taken on November 16, 1968, when Robert A. Ferguson, author of Psychic Telemetry, New Key to Health, Wealth, and Perfect Living, was giving a speech at a spiritualist convention in Los Angeles, California. Faintly appearing next to Ferguson is a figure that he later identified as his brother, Walter, who died in 1944 during World War II. At first glance, this might seem to be a double exposure or some kind of darkroom trickery, but this photo is a Polaroid, one of several taken of Ferguson at the time, making any kind of hoaxing quite unlikely. Number 18. Disable Hotel Ghost. Authorities have warned people to stay away from this hotel because construction was taking place on the building. What they didn't warn people about was the ghost. The spirit of a tall woman in a long white frock has been reported at the spa. The hotel in Romania is rumored to hide ancient Roman treasure, and the ghost is said to appear to protect it from treasure hunters. This ghost wasn't captured on camera until 2008, when a 33-year-old woman snapped this photograph, which indeed seems to show the ghostly image of a tall white figure in a long white frock. Number 17. Vacation Party Ghost. These two photos were taken in 1988 at a hotel in Austria. Several vacationers gathered for a farewell party at the hotel and decided to take a group photo. One man at the party, Mr. Todd, set up his Canon film camera on a nearby table and pointed it at the group. He set the self-timer on the camera and hurried back to the table. The shutter clicked and the film wound forward, but the flash didn't fire. So Todd set the camera for a second shot. This time, the camera flash worked. The film was later developed, and it wasn't until one of the party members was viewing the photos that it was noticed that the first non-flash photo showed a somewhat blurry extra head. No one recognized this ghostly woman, and they could not imagine how her image appeared in this photo. Number 16. Corroboree Rock Ghost. This photo was taken at Corroboree Rock at Alice Springs, Australia in 1959. What does not seem to be a trick of light and shadow is a human form, semi-transparent, and wearing what looks like a long white dress or gown. What's more curious is that the figure seems to be holding something, and one possibility is that this is a double exposure of a living person, because in 1959 this image would have been captured on film. It has also been speculated that this figure might actually be a time traveler, or an interdimensional being who has been photographed in the act of watching us. Number 15. Ghost in Manila. An ordinary photograph taken in Manila in the Philippines, and I wouldn't blame you for thinking it's just another photobomb or a double exposure. But neither of the girls in the photo reported anyone coming anywhere near them when the picture was taken, and the photo was taken with a digital camera, ruling out double exposure. So the question has to be asked, who was this translucent figure holding the girl's arm in the photo? Till this day, no one knows. Number 14. Lord Combermere Ghost. This photograph of the Combermere Abbey Library was taken in 1891. The figure of a man can faintly be seen sitting in the chair to the left. His head, collar and right arm on the armrest are clearly discernible. It is believed to be the ghost of Lord Combermere, who was a British cavalry commander in the early 1800s. Lord Combermere died in 1891, having been struck and killed by a horse-drawn carriage. At the time this photograph was taken, Comermere's funeral was taking place some 4 miles away. Number 13. Solway Firth Spaceman. On May 23rd, 1964, Jim Templeton, a firefighter from Cumberland, took 3 photographs of his 5-year-old daughter while on a trip to Burgh Marsh. Templeton said the only other people on the marshes that day were a couple of old ladies sitting in a car at the far end of the marsh. In a letter to the Daily Mail in 2002, Templeton stated, "I took 3 pictures of my daughter Elizabeth in a similar pose and was shocked when the middle picture came out from Kodak displaying what looks like a spaceman in the background." Templeton insists that he did not see the figure until after the photographs were developed, and analysts at Kodak confirmed that the photo was actually genuine. Number 12. Madonna of Bachelor's Grove. This photograph was taken at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery in Cook County, Illinois in 1991 during a paranormal investigation by the Ghost Research Society. The small abandoned cemetery is known to be haunted and perhaps one of the most haunted places in the Chicago area. The ghost itself, a woman sitting on a tombstone staring out into the trees. The photographer says the woman was definitely not present when the photo was taken. Number 11. Spectre of Newby Church. This photograph was taken in 1963 by Reverend K.F. Lord at Newby Church in North Yorkshire, England. It's been a controversial photo because it seems just too good to be real. The shrouded face and the way it looks directly into the camera makes it look like it was posed or a clever use of double exposure. Yet supposedly the photo has been scrutinized by photo experts who say the image is not the result of a double exposure. The Reverend Lord said that there was nothing visible to the naked eye when he took the snapshot of his altar. Yet when the film was developed, standing there was this strange figure. Number 10. Cemetery Ghost Baby. A woman named Mrs. Andrews was visiting the grave of her daughter in a cemetery in Queensland, Australia in 1946. Her daughter Joyce had died about a year earlier in 1945 at the age of 17. Mrs. Andrews saw nothing unusual when she took this photo of Joyce's grave. Although when the film was developed, Mrs. Andrews was astonished to see the image of a small child sitting happily at her daughter's grave. Mrs. Andrews said she did not recognize the child at all. Investigating the case, Australian paranormal researcher Tony Healy visited the cemetery in the late 1990s. Near Joyce's grave, where the photo was taken, he found the graves of 2 infant girls. Number 9. Boot Hill Cemetery Ghost. Terry Ike Clanton took this black and white photograph of a friend at Boot Hill Graveyard in Tombstone, Arizona. Dressed in old 1880s styled clothing, the two were simply trying to recreate the look of the Old West. As Clanton himself was a family member of the Clanton gang who fought at the gunfight at the OK Corral. One of the photographs was developed, however, they found a mysterious figure lurking in the background, seemingly arising from a grave, although no one else was around at the time the picture was taken. Number 8. Backseat Driver Ghost. Mrs. Mabel Chinnery was visiting the grave of her mother one day in 1959. She had brought along her camera to take photographs of the gravesite, and after snapping a few shots of her mother's gravestone, she took a random photo of her husband, who was waiting alone in the car. At least, the Chinnerys thought he was alone. When the film was developed, the couple was more than surprised to see a figure wearing glasses sitting in the back seat of the car. Mrs. Chinnery immediately recognized the image to be her mother, the woman whose grave they had visited earlier that day. Number 7. Tulip Staircase Ghost. Ralph Hardy, a retired minister from British Columbia, took this now famous photograph in 1966. He merely intended to photograph the elegant spiral staircase known as the Tulip Staircase, which is in the Queen's House section of the National Maritime Museum in the UK. Upon development, however, the photo revealed a shrouded figure climbing the stairs. Experts from Kodak who examined the original negative concluded that the photo had not been tampered with. Number 6. Watertown Ghost Faces. In 1927, James Courtney and Michael Meehan were killed by gas fumes while cleaning a cargo tank aboard the SS Watertown. Other people on the ship said it was a freak accident. Caught en route between Panama Canal and New York City, they were buried at sea and the ship sailed on. But days later, crew members reported seeing unmistakable faces on the water's surface of the faces of James Courtney and Michael Meehan. The captain took several photographs that day, and the one you see above contains their ghostly faces shimmering slightly above the water. Number 5. Girl in the Fire Ghost. On November 19th, 1905, a fire raged inside Wem Town Hall in the UK, engulfing the entire building and burning it to the ground. As it burnt, one onlooker took several photographs from across the street. One contained something very shocking: a young girl standing in the doorway. Although no one at the scene ever recalled noticing the girl, nor did any of the firefighters. It's been suggested that the girl died in the town hall years before the fire. Number 4. Grandpa's Ghost. This lady lived on her own until age 94, when her mind started to weaken and she had to be moved to an old people's home for her own safety. One day, there was a picnic for all the residents and their families. This old lady's family were there and took 2 photos that day, and this is one of them. The family said, "We didn't notice the man in the picture until Christmas Day, 3 years after the photo was taken. It turns out the man standing behind the old lady was her husband that died years earlier." Number 3. Hampton Court Ghost. In 2003, this image was captured by closed-circuit security cameras at the Hampton Court Palace in London, England. The fire alarms had sounded, indicating that one of the doors had opened. Guards rushed to the area but found the doors were closed with no one nearby. Only the ghostly figure on the camera footage, nicknamed Skeletor. It's been suggested that perhaps it was one of Henry VIII's beheaded wives returning. Number 2. The Ghost of Freddie Jackson. This is one of the most widely publicized ghost photos in existence. A group portrait of a World War I squadron was taken at a training facility. It all seemed normal except for the one extra face in the crowd. The ghostly image of a man by the name Freddie Jackson appeared, an air mechanic who had died in an accident only 2 days before this photo was taken. Members of the squadron easily recognized the face as Jackson's. It has been suggested that Jackson, unaware of his own death, decided to show up for the group photo anyway. Number 1. The Brown Lady Ghost. Perhaps the most famous ghost photo ever taken is that of the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall. It was taken in 1936, and many claim it is in fact the ghost of Lady Townshend, who had been forcibly confined to the mansion by her husband until her reported death in 1726. As the story goes, 2 photographers were taking photos of the house when one of them saw a strange misty figure gliding slowly down the stairs. They snapped the photo, but one of them didn't think anything would turn up on the photograph as he didn't witness the apparition. But, as you can see in the image above, they certainly caught something.